This is the ERP Advisor.
Today's episode, how AI will actually impact your organization.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us for today's webinar, How AI Will Actually Impact Your Organization. Our presentation today will cover the following learning objectives. 1, review what AI really is. 2, discuss AI financial and accounting tools that are currently available on the market. 3, understand how large software vendors are incorporating AI into their solutions. And 4, review practical AI use cases for current and future financial organizations and business processes. Today's presentation is valid for 1 CPE credit. In order to receive CPE credit, each attendee is required to attend the full 50-minute presentation, as well as engage and answer all of the polled questions asked throughout the presentation. If you are needing CPE credit for today's presentation, please leave your name in the chat of the Zoom or send an email to elizabeth@erpadvisorsgroup.com. And for the record, and you will be issued a CPE certificate. We'll also send out an evaluation to all the attendees, and feel free to send your feedback to us so we can continually improve our presentations. At the end of today's call, there will be a short question and answer period. If you have a question for our presenter, please add it to the chat section of the Zoom. I think it's actually the Q&A. I'm not sure if you can do chat. Shawn Windle is our presenter for today. Shawn is the founder and managing principal of ERP Advisors Group based in Denver, Colorado. Shawn has worked in the enterprise software industry for over 20 years. He started his career at Accenture and Arthur Andersen Business Consulting and moved into the software industry with Oracle as a technology product manager. There are only a few people in the world with the practical software experience that Shawn has gained with helping hundreds of clients across many industries with selecting and implementing a wide variety of enterprise solutions. His podcast, The ERP Advisor, has dozens of episodes with thousands of downloads and is featured on prominent podcast platforms such as Apple and Spotify. Shawn, if you are ready, I will pass it over to you for our presentation today.
Great. Hopefully you can hear me okay.
I got you.
All right, let's do it. Well, thank you, everybody. You know, I think my picture and I kind of look the same. We're almost dressed and being in the exact same spot, but good to talk to everybody today. So we are going to talk about how AI will actually impact your organization. And I think with a special emphasis on the office of the CFO and finance and accounting organizations within business, nonprofits, government agencies. So please, if you have questions, put them in the chat or in the section there that Erica mentioned, and we'll definitely get to those at the end. We will also have some definitely questions as we go through this that you can respond to ensure that you have not been put to sleep by my AI-based voice that I'm giving you this presentation from. No, I'm really an actual person, but just to reiterate here, we are going to talk about like what AI really is, and that's going to be important because the bottom line is that there's a lot of misnomers and misunderstandings and misconceptions about AI. So we're going to get into that. We'll talk about very specific financial accounting tools that are out in the market today, as well as what we're seeing from some of the larger vendors, and then finally get into some actual use cases. We're not just going to say how wonderful AI is. We're going to talk about what's really going on. As Erica mentioned, please at ERP Advisors Group, if you would like a certificate for today. And I can't think of any more logistics. I think it's time to jump in and start talking about AI. Oh, almost. A little bit about us. So ERP Advisors Group. So we're independent objective, meaning we don't sell software, we don't take cuts, commissions, none of that stuff. We are about what they need, helping go through selection processes, as well as helping even on implementations. So this is all we do. We don't just do general IT work. So we're an enterprise software day in and day out. We're working with about 50 different projects today. We have sort of a proven methodology for going through these processes. So it ensures that we're focused on the right things for our clients. And we do tend to serve mid-sized organizations. Most of us came from kind of a big four background with large organizations and decided to focus on, kind of folks that are anywhere from early stage startup upwards of a billion or a little bit more than that too. Now, let's jump into it. So, let's talk a little bit about the good of AI, and we've selected some quotes here. And by the way, some of this presentation we did use AI to develop that the presentation. Interestingly enough, here, so you'll see some things in here that'll be interesting. For instance, if I go back here. This graphic is created by a generative AI application. I said, what does the AI impact of the financial organization look like in the future? And this is what we got. So basically, we're all going to have no hair and have circuits in our heads. So good luck with that, everybody. But jumping in here, there has been so much discussion of AI and what it is, and is it good and is it bad? And I think we're seeing kind of a reduction in kind of the, oh my gosh, AI is going to take over the world, right? But these are some pretty important people. These are opinion leaders in our industry and technology. And here's kind of what they're saying about what's good about AI, right? Mark Benioff, I started off with him. He was with Oracle prior to starting Salesforce with his partner. It's done pretty well. And it's interesting, right? I was even actually just saw a post today or yesterday about some of the generative AI things that Salesforce is doing too. We have people from IBM. We have Mark Zuckerberg saying AI is going to make our lives better in the future, and doomsday scenarios are pretty irresponsible. I tend to agree with that. There may be some people on this call that don't. I think as CPAs, we are trained to be skeptical, and we need to be skeptical for sure. Jeff Bezos from Amazon, AI agents will become our digital assistants, helping us navigate the complexities of the modern world. They will make our lives easier and more efficient. And you can see what Satya Nadella from the CEO of Microsoft says. It won't replace people, but will augment our capabilities and capacity. So I like this slide because, and I should even really quickly just touch on what Ms. Rametti says here from former CEO of IBM. Call it AI, but in reality, it is this technology. It will enhance us. So instead of artificial intelligence, she thinks of it as augmenting our intelligence. I like what these people have to say here because I've really only worked in the software industry since the day I came out of school. Well, started my career with Accenture. Yeah, every job I've had has been related to software. And so I've watched the evolution of software from coming in the 90s and seeing, the build up to Y2K, to client server software, to then cloud. And now, artificial intelligence as a species, man needs to sloganize things sometimes to understand what they are, especially if they're wicked, crazy, complex things. We can just put a little label on it and all of a sudden we think we understand it. That's what that artificial intelligence, think of it as a label, right? And it's really for these things that these people talk about here on the slides, that we're talking about augmenting our intelligence. Now, I can tell you, maybe I'll just show you this. I probably shouldn't, but I'm going to. Erica always cringes when I say that kind of stuff. But like, this is my artificial intelligence device that I use almost every 10 minutes, my calendar. You guys have one of those too. I know you do. We're all driven by our calendars. We used to say we were driven by Outlook. Now we use Gmail at our organization. Don't try to hack us just because I said that. But software has augmented our capabilities for many, 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 many decades now. And we all know software's here to stay. Not only that, but it can really help us with what we do. I think about all of my professionals. I think about all of my administrative staff. We're all using software every day to make things go better. So why would we not use more of it in the future? Good. Then, if we want to call it artificial intelligence or just put some kind of a slogan on it so that we can all have something to read about in Time Magazine or the Wall Street Journal, or, maybe a little more layman's, not to say those are, you know what I mean, right? When we have general publics talking about very complex technologies, it's just easier to refer to them as something simply. And I think that's the beauty of these quotes, is that it kind of takes this really complex topic and puts it in as something there. There's one more thing I'll say here too. Unequivocally, who am I to say Jeff Bezos is right, right? But Jeff Bezos is right. We absolutely will have digital assistants. Again, the context in which we think of digital assistants today, well, it used to be software, ERP being one of them, but now it's moved to apps. We think about apps. I have an app for this, an app for that. To go to a digital assistant is just the natural progression. It's the natural evolution of software. It's not like it's some romantic concept that where it's out in 20, 50 years from now. No, no, no. We will have assistants that will pay, of course, recurring. Don't worry. There'll be recurring fees for everybody, especially for the payment processors who are making $1 gazillion these days. There will be digital assistants that we will bring in for calendaring. I mean, my team right now, we have one client, we're spending like hours and hours and hours trying to figure out calendars between 4 different parties, bringing them together with 5 people each. Could we have a digital assistant in the future that does that? Hopefully. So there will be the next evolution of AI. And again, you can see kind of this side of what some of the people in the industry are saying. Now, what's from our perspective, when we say AI, what we're really talking about is the next generation of enterprise software that organizations and people, you, will use to automate your digital tasks. Now, is AI going to help us make coffee? Well, that's a good question. I mean, we just bought this Jira coffee machine. I don't know if you guys have seen these things. It's freaking amazing. I think it's actually saving us all a ton of money from Starbucks. No offense, Starbucks. But that thing is kind of our digital assistant for coffee in a way. AI is going to actually, and is being used, I'm sure, in that platform to determine how much coffee beans versus water and things like that. But let me extrapolate a little bit from that, there's no doubt that there's digital tasks that we're all doing: calendaring, spreadsheet creation, FP&A analysis, AP analysis, running through a procure to pay processes, order to cash processes. Think of how systems are being used today to manage those transactions. So as we go on and on into the future, AI will help us to automate those digital tasks even further. And it is computing that represents human intelligence and evaluation, right? This isn't just like if A do X, if B do Y, right? It's a chain and decision trees that are extremely complex, and so complex that it starts to kind of bleed a little bit into human intelligence. Now, is it to the level of being able to say, maybe I need an app that says, what do I have for dinner tonight? Right. Well, what'd you have last night? What kind of diet are you on? What does your spouse think? Oh, I don't know about that. That one's going to be a little too hard to represent. I don't know. I'm probably more the picky one in our relationship. That's kind of true. Anyway, when we talk about human intelligence and evaluation, that's what we're saying is, how can we help the computing applications that we use to understand more and more and more of how we think about things? And this is where it gets really interesting. And I think I like this presentation that we put together, because it makes AI extremely practical. And it starts with what I'm just about to say right now. So AI relies on zettabytes of data. And we're talking about not just zeros and ones, right? But the next evolutions of zeros and ones into language, into graphics, into models, right? But it's zettabytes. It's available in federated mega computing facilities that require massive energy consumption. And what we mean by that is we have many, many, many different hyperscalers, Amazon Web Services, Azure from Microsoft, Oracle. There's many others. There's many other data centers. We've got many here that have even started in Colorado, where I'm at, and many around the world, where you have basically this physical plant, really, with a building, like you can usually tell these data centers because they don't have windows, right? So that these huge buildings and they have massive space in them, right? And the infrastructure is set up with cooling and heating and security and everything. And then there's tons and tons and tons and tons and tons of CPUs or GPUs now we talk about that are just there's just hardware in there and they're all connected, right? And within those machines, right, there's some that are meant for processing, there's some that are meant for storage, there's other devices that are in there for security, of course. But the amount of storage that these buildings contain is just it's next generation. It is beyond what we've had before. And that is really the crux of what AI is based on, is not just gigabytes, megabytes, like zettabytes. Like we're talking a whole new level of even terabytes, right? 1 billion terabytes that couldn't really be built in the past for various reasons. Part of which was nobody was willing to pay for it all, and now we're seeing that they are. So, here's your first question: true or false? AI is an extremely diverse term that can mean different things to different people. True or false? I'll give you a minute there there's the polls and quizzes. Please answer that. My hope is after this presentation that at least the next cocktail party, I think we're going to cocktail parties again or holiday parties when after people talk about whatever else has been going on and they ask you about, hey, what's AI? You'll have some good concepts that you can share with them for sure. We'll give you another 20 seconds or so to answer that. Good. I think we've got most of our polling in now. Perfect. Okay. We'll go ahead and close the polling, and the answer is true. I did skip a slide that I wanted to go back here too. I am painting a picture of a pretty positive future. And I can feel a lot of my colleagues on this call who are saying, "Oh, I don't know," because there are risks, right? Let's not pretend that there aren't risks here for sure. I think Elon Musk, right? If anybody's going to elicit an emotional response today, it's Elon Musk, right? But he says, I think we should be very careful about artificial intelligence. If I had to guess what our biggest existential threat is, it's probably that. So we need to be very careful. I think that's a very cautious, responsible viewpoint on any technology, right? Technology itself isn't usually the thing that is the problem, right? The threat comes from what's behind that, which is a person who is threatening. And I think that's sort of what he's saying there too. Sam Altman, who's definitely been in the news a lot here, we've got to be careful here. I think people should be happy that we are a little bit scared of this, and I think he's right. I think with anything, again in the technology space, we just have to ensure that as our knowledge of AI goes up, our responsibility must too, and our ability to control it. And then, of course, there's Bill Gates. You want to talk about somebody who definitely has many different views of many different things. That's what he has to say here. We should be worried about the threat posed by artificial intelligence. I don't think, again, I look at these gentlemen, they've accomplished a few more things in their career than I have. But I think when we're advising our clients, we're talking to people, we definitely have these points in mind that we just have to have the awareness of what the risks could be, and then also what the benefits are. All right. So with all that said about kind of the high level on AI, let's look at where we're at with AI now. And in Gartner, I have a love-hate relationship with Gartner. Gartner Group's, of course, a IT industry pundit analyst firm. And I actually really like this curve. I think it sort of shows what we've been through with AI and very related technologies. And this is called the curve of evolution of basically technology, right? Where we go through innovation trigger and, oh my gosh, it's amazing. And wow, look at this. And the valuations are through the roof. And then, whoa, that didn't like pan out to anything. But wait a minute, maybe it did a little bit more and holy cow, yeah, this is really productive and now it's useful, right? One could say, and I believe that this curve has been flattened a little bit and shrunk in, meaning the duration is much less time than what we've seen before in the past. The cycles go faster, you know. So if we look at kind of what Gartner's saying is that we're sort of at the peak of AI augmented generative AI, you know, these tools that we hear a lot about, that we're sort of like in this point where, you know, the next couple of years, like we're going to reach the top of what's available there. But the interesting thing is that there will be additional applications, there will be additional technologies that come out that we don't even really know them yet. We're going to talk about what some of those are here, but I just want you to understand we're really at the beginning with AI. It's the very, very beginning. Now, last year when we did a similar presentation, we said, you know, the wave is here, and it's not that it's coming, it's come. Now we're saying, okay, now we're starting to actually see some pretty interesting applications of this, some of which we'll talk about here today. But this is the most important thing that I want you to walk away from this presentation, from this CPE with today. AI has required gargantuan infrastructure investments. Now, some of our clients, some of the participants who are supposed to come in today, they come from the data center industry, and they have benefited immensely from this. And it really does go back to, you cannot have software with the logic that we're asking AI to do without having tons and tons of infrastructure to support it. And when I say infrastructure, I'm talking about land, buildings, energy, right? The consequences of energy are, I think we're just beginning to understand what that is. I mean, we're talking about buying nuclear plants and refurbishing them and preparing for kind of next generation computing. It also deals with people being able to maintain and run and administer these systems, right? It also, of course, goes back to NVIDIA, other hardware providers that are providing these GPUs and other devices that are required, right? Like we're talking about like the stuff that makes the AI runs in. And I like that, because when you start talking about AI, you could be like, it's like talking about the air, right? You don't really see the air, you know it's there, you need the air, your body needs it. But it's hard to kind of conceptualize, like, or to like put into tangible phrases what is air. Now, the biologists and chemists out there do that all the time. Same thing with AI. So when you think about the infrastructure that is really the basis, now we can say, oh yeah, it's just a super like whiz bang software system. Yeah. Well, but why didn't we have that before? Because we didn't have the computing power. And what brought us that computing power? You know, did like a spaceship come from some other planet and drop it on our planet? Nope. We just, as technology leaders, took a lot more responsibility for it. And especially when we look at some of the people we quoted earlier, these billionaires, private equity, they are funding tons and tons and tons of innovation. Customers aren't. And this is, it's taken me many, many, many decades to understand this. And I hope there's some people from my team, even on this call, who can hear what I'm about to say. Most innovation is not necessarily customer driven, because customers don't know that much about any given product or service, because they use that product or service, then they go away and they go do something else. Whereas a corporation, an entity, a business entity, a nonprofit entity that's solely focused on one thing, they get better and better and better at that. Now, the best organizations understand what customers want, almost better than customers, right? You can tell I was a product manager back in the day and sort of love kind of the Steve Jobs approach to product development, which is like, we know what they need better than they do. Go build it. And sure enough, I mean, we got a lot of iPhones out there. But I really do believe that the technology billionaires have I think finally done something good with all their money. They've been doing some wonky things otherwise. Um, we won't get into that on this call. That's another CPE for another day. But seriously, that when you see the infrastructure and the amount of innovation that these people are driving with their money, literally their dollars, it's incredible, and I love that, and I think that's the way that this industry is really going to come to fruition. Now, the other side of that, of course, too, is that when we see these AI startups, whoo, man, they're just the valuations are just over the top, and didn't we learn anything from some of our industries of yours from the railroads in the 1800s, right? The boom and the bust, and all the rest of the industries that have come and gone. But it's an indicator to people like me in the technology industry, like, whoa, like it's not just me that's interested in AI. I've been tracking AI for 10 years. It's institutional investors. It's not just the private equity people in Silicon Valley. It's private equity people in the world that are interested in that. So now the truth of the matter, though, is that I believe that we are on the precipice of ROI from AI objects. We're not really seeing like, oh my gosh, I made 100% of my money back in 2 years. Of course, there's some scenarios out there. They're a little raw, to be honest with you right now. Like, wow, we fired 100 people. We put in an AI app and, they were able to do what the 100 people are doing. Those cases I think are far and wide between. And I would say you probably had other problems, frankly, that you're saying AI solved, that maybe you're just using AI because it was easier to say that versus we were overstaffed in the first place from all those acquisitions that we did. Okay. Whew, man, I'm really trying to stay in out of the contentious areas, but I just keep walking right into them. With that said, let's do another question. So true or false, AI requires a significant amount of computing power to operate. True or false? Here's our polls that comes up. Please make sure you respond to that for your CPE credit. And please don't get this wrong. We've chatted with a couple companies of recent that are energy startups, which are, I think, energy startups, and they're not just renewable energy startups, but nuclear, coal power generation. Like, it's really pretty interesting what's happening right now, and most of that, of course, is being fueled by technology. Okay, we'll give you maybe another 30 seconds to respond there. Perfect. As long as these data centers leave power around for, like heating and cooling and cooking, I think we'll be okay. Good. Question 2, the answer is, of course, true. There we go. Good. So now that we understand sort of the physicalness, did I just make that word up? The physical kind of the embodiment of AI in the material universe. How does that sound for concrete? Now let's talk about some of the AI tools, specifically software tools in the marketplace. And this is really where we get into the impact to you all on this call as you're completing your CPE in this reporting year or in the future if you're hearing this recorded. So AI tools are they're offered as separate platforms, or best of breed applications, or they're embedded within existing solutions. So it's a good way to kind of separate out the technology market, which, by the way, is what ERP Advisors does for our clients. We don't just talk about, oh, it's this kind of app. No. There's types of applications that you have to understand first before you get into specific apps. So these are the types of AI tools, if you will. So there's platforms, right? AI platforms that leverage generative tools with large language models, image recognition, predictive tools, and machine learning. So when you think about platforms here, this is what kind of more technical people are going to use to build out some kind of an application. But you've got to have the tools before you have the app. And everybody who's been in the ERP industry and built and implemented ERP has been through that, whether it was SAP, PeopleSoft, JD Edwards, even the Sage Intacct, like all of these tools, basically all these apps have basically like a toolkit, and then they have the app. So we're talking about the toolkit. That's a type of AI tool in the market. Then you go to the other extreme, which is, oh, we built this really like niche best of breed application that they do have kind of a platform with some software, but they're really built to solve a specific business problem or personal problem for that matter in their personal life. And then there's something in between where we see sort of the large scale enterprise software vendors, they're embedding AI platforms or building them into their own solution. So we're going to talk about these three. So think platform, think large scale enterprise software vendor, and then BOB, best of breed. So here's an example of a platform. Make Llama your own. So this is Meta's AI platform. And it's built as an open ecosystem, right? Where different developers, these are really kind of like the audience here is like a developer, right? Who has the interest and the desire and the skill set to be able to build out apps. So some of the things that we see here are, looking at different kinds of models and how do you control the model that is at the basis of the AI, right? Download model weights to further optimize cost per token. The costing models and how these platforms are sold, it's pretty complex. This is where you start to realize that AI is still in its infancy because it requires so much technical understanding of a single platform. You have to be so specialized to use it, right? But these platforms are available. Other things on here, leverage the 405B high quality data to improve specialized models for specific use cases. My guess is much like most of the people that are listening to this CPE, and if you use Llama and you know what every single thing on here does, I tip my hat to you, but most of us don't. And what I'm trying to say to you is, you don't need to yet. You don't need to know this level of AI platform because there's a market for people who are very technical to be able to go in and start using these platforms to build more customer facing solutions. But just know there's platforms out there. And here's a whole list of a bunch of them. Now, you can tell I got this from Grok, and actually it's already been updated. But Grok, GPT-4, Claude 3, Gemini Pro, there's Llama from Facebook. So there's many different kinds of platforms out there. And when you look at the benchmarking, you look at, basically everything on the slide, you're probably like, I have no idea what you're saying to me right now, Shawn Windle. And I would say, don't worry, you're fine. But I just want you to know there's different types of platforms that are out there. So when you hear one of these names, just know there are other options that are in the market. Which one's better? Which one's worse? Which one should I buy? Which one should I stay away from? I don't know the answer to that. And I don't think many people do, right? This, of course, you can tell where I got this from Max. They're basically saying that, Grok is better than everybody else based across all of these different benchmarks or matrix. So, but I bet somebody else, like if you go to Gemini to their website, they're going to have other metrics that show that they're better. So, it's sort of like this. It's like every technology evolution that we've been through as a species that at the beginning, it takes such specialized knowledge to know which one is best in this that, you're going to make bets that may or may not be right. You may bet on the wrong platform if you're building out AI tools with LLMs to decide, how to evaluate your financial statements. If you're going to use a platform, just know there's a lot of variability there. And with each release of these platforms, we're seeing monumental increases. So then, wouldn't it be great if there were specific tools in the market that leveraged AI so we didn't have to worry about them so that some developers could worry about them, right? And the answer is absolutely. There are many, many, many applications in the market that are AI based, autonomous. You hear those phrases. We used to hear machine language and remote or robot processing automation, robot RPA. But those are terms from like 1952, I think. Oh no, I'm sorry, last year. So the evolution is fast, but there are companies out there that are building AI tools with the intention of making your life better. To the CPAs that are sitting in corporate finance, corporate accounting offices, many to even accounting firms and other professional services firms that we've got people that join these calls from. There's a ton of tools out there. So, some of the processes that we're seeing that some of the AI software applications are going after are month-end close, right? Month-end close is a manual process. Now, is the AI tool going to help you decide when you do an accrual versus waiting for that final bill to come in, and then your close, gets pushed out 2 weeks because the dang electric company didn't send you the bill on time? I mean, that's how old I am. That used to be the close problems we dealt with. But no, of course not, right? But can it help with the automation of checking journal entries, ensuring the appropriate approvals are in place, making sure that accounts are closed, et cetera, et cetera? The answer is absolutely yes. There's no doubt. I did this presentation with Financial Executives International recently, and one of the gentlemen who I've known for many years, who's has been a client of ours as well as a controller CFO, he was going to engage with Data Rails very recently and see sort of what that FP&A platform. We haven't worked with a client on that yet, but again, you see a very common problem that aren't there FP&A solutions in the market today? Yeah. But can a new vendor come together with some whiz-bang developers and build something that solves a problem that other apps have had for a long time and maybe didn't quite do it as well? The answer is yes. We see a lot of accounts receivable automation. We see a lot of accounts payable automation already. And then you have tools like Vic AI and AppZen. We're not promoting or endorsing these applications. We work with everybody. But I just wanted to give you a feel for, if you're waiting for AI apps, they're here. Like they have arrived. And do they have hundreds and thousands and millions of customers on them? No. Are they still sort of going through that hype curve a little bit? Yeah, but look at some of the names on the Vic.ai site, and these are recognizable companies. So you probably have a smaller division within the larger corporation that's more willing to tolerate risk and try some new apps, right? That's really who buys applications. It's not companies or nonprofits or government agencies. It's individuals. So I'm going to come back to the importance of this in a little bit, but what we are seeing is that we see a lot of finance, a lot of accounting professionals that are willing to take more risk with these kinds of AI-based solutions than what we've ever seen in the past. And that happened fast. That, I believe, has happened in just a matter of a couple years here, because several years ago when we talked about this, we basically were telling people like you who are listening to this, hey, keep an eye out. Just keep an eye out for now. Don't worry about it. Now we're saying, well, if you're looking at FP&A solutions, you may want to include one of these kinds of apps. Or if you're looking at invoice processing and bill payment, there are some other solutions that are out there. But what also comes into play here, of course, is the existing solutions in the market are investing billions in AI. So this is just another example. Workday. So Workday has, I think, one of the top HCM solutions in the market. I think their competitors would agree with that. There's many, many other HCM solutions in the market, of course. We work with actually all of them. But they also have financials. And they also have other tools, Prism Analytics. They have Adaptive for FP&A and many other tools too. Just like Oracle, just like SAP, just like all of the ERP vendors, the tier 2 vendors too. But they really are focusing a lot on kind of that next level transformation. And the ERP vendors over the years, bless their souls, who I've worked with a lot. I worked at, and I work with a gazillion times a day. They're pretty good at like the marketing and the pizzazz of how do you make a technology pop a little bit to drive sales. Next generation AI, next level transformation. So is the next gen AI going to give you transformation? No, it's not. But the tools that are here that you can start to leverage in a way that really could help you to do some very specific things. And I think the point I'm trying to make here is if you don't have an ERP vendor or an FP&A vendor, a month-end close process, or some reconciliation tools company that's not talking about AI, you will have a problem in about 5 years, for sure. Now, the good news is all of them are. But the bad news is that many companies, nonprofits, government agencies, as we're hearing especially a lot about on X, are not on platforms that are investing in AI. They're maybe not even on the cloud-based systems. They're on more on-premise solutions that they customized 10 years ago, and now they're landlocked. They can't get off of this application. They can't upgrade. They can't do anything other than replace their systems. Now, I'm here to tell you that you won't go from a on-prem, 1990s, 2010 system to a next gen AI application. Your people will quit if you do that. So don't do that, right? There's gradient steps that you have to take. So from we have a client that's on a steel specific system that was written many years ago on an older platform, like a operating system. Now they're moving into something that's sort of kind of client server, which was a little old too, but it's in AWS. It's at Amazon Web Services. It's in their Gov Cloud, frankly, because they do some work with the federal government. And the architecture is that next level up, right? So that's good. You need to make that jump and then be willing to go up to kind of where we talk about next gen AI. So a lot of the next gen AI from an enterprise software ERP perspective is sort of sold to customers that are already, they're not on the bleeding edge of technology adoption, but they've already adopted basically cloud. That's the easiest way to say that. Cloud is another one of those slogans that just stuck and people could just say, oh yeah, it's cloud. Oh, there's a lot more to it than that. But you've got to be at that level then to get to the next level. So what I'm trying to say here is that ERP vendors are making a major move into AI. When we went to the Sage conference, to Epicor, NetSuite, we're doing some business with Workday, Infor. Infor is pretty interesting. They're starting to get even deeper involved with AWS. So they're leveraging some of that toolkit too. So again, I just to sort of summarize what I'm trying to say here. I guess before I move on from that, this is Oracle, and Oracle's pretty interesting because when they talk about AI capabilities, Oracle's one of the few enterprise software vendors that has literally from the bare ground up, right? They have the data center, they have the operating systems, the servers, the operating systems, storage, and then they have the enterprise applications and all the other ancillary apps that go with that, right? All around it. So, that's just another example, though, of another large scale enterprise software vendor that's making a play around AI, and they're all doing it a little bit different, is what I'm trying to say. So OCI is kind of a grow your own. Some of the other vendors are relying on Azure, AWS. They're blending in kind of their own with something else too. So there's many different kinds of options that are in the market today. So before I do that question, I just want to go back a couple slides because I really want you to understand this now, and I think it'll make more sense. When people talk about AI apps, now they could be talking about AI platforms. And if they are talking about AI platforms to you, I would say, last year I would have said run, because you don't want to listen to that because they're techie beanie weenies who are throwing out a bunch of technical terms that don't matter. That's not the case. I actually am thinking that you kind of need somebody who's interested in these AI platforms just to kind of watch and see what's happening. But there's platforms, right? Then There's best of breed applications that do one specific function or maybe a collection of functions, but they're really targeted around solving a specific business problem. And then you have the ERP vendors that have AI built within them. So that's a very simplistic way to say, here's the types of AI tools that are in the market. And I'm sure an AI specialist would yell at me, but I think for our perspectives from a accounting finance viewpoint, I think it's a good way to say that. All right, here's the next question. Again, hopefully I just heard a sneeze from somebody listening to this, so I'm sure she's confused as I'll get up. I hopefully haven't confused you so much. If I have, and you need CPA though, CPE, wake up and please answer this question. Here we go. Here's our next polling question. AI specific tools for accounting and finance include FP&A, AP automation, tax compliance, all of the above. We can have an E, which is, and many, many more. So please take a minute to go ahead and answer that question. And I'm always curious to hear what experiences you all are having with the AI tools too. So my email is just Shawn, SHAWN at ERPadvisorsgroup.com. Send them to me. I would love to hear what you're seeing and what's working and what's not. And I think last year when we talked about AI tools, we talked a lot about security, and not just cybersecurity risks, but the security of your proprietary data. And I think that has been a big change that has happened in a very short amount of time, is that these AI specific accounting tools have taken a lot of responsibility with ensuring that your enterprise data is intact, and isn't mixed with other data from other entities, supposedly. All right. Good. Maybe another 10 seconds there. Perfect. Okay, we'll close that up. And of course, the answer is all of the above and much, much more. Okay, but that's good to kind of, I think, shape the market for you and how you can think about AI. So what does all of this really mean? And what do we really need to do with AI? I do think that I get this word right, the trough of disillusionment for AI, it will be brief. You know, we're at the peak, you know, maybe even kind of coming over a little bit. I think it's going to go right, but then I think it'll go whoop. I think it'll go really fast. And you know why? Because there's a lot of people that make a lot of money that are putting a lot of money into it, and they're going to want a lot of money out of it. So I think their demand for ROI will be very, very short. So that means we need to be ready. We need to understand this market, and these types of solutions. So it may require us to take a bit more risk taking than we typically feel comfortable with. And there's risks behind being an early adopter, and there's risks behind being a too late adopter. And again, I'm hoping what you're getting from this call is it's time to start adopting AI, and understanding what it is the first step for sure. But be willing to include maybe some of these more AI-based solutions as you're looking for some other stuff and other new technologies. Of course, the most conservative approach. And remember, nobody paid us for this. No ERP vendors, nobody. This is all straight, basically from my experience, from our experience as an organization to you guys. The ERP vendors have been in the business of taking technology trends, taking tools, taking enterprise software, building concepts from all the way from extreme programming and cloud and all of these things over the years, right? Integrations. There's so many different trends I was a part of being in the technology industry, that I've seen how, you know, these really the value that the ERP vendors bring is they sort of sift through all those technologies and say, okay, this one is really going to be helpful. Now let's build an application to solve our customers' problems with. And I mean, not just an app, I mean, an application. So we have some vendors that are building out, you know, really incredible things around FP&A and budget planning and sharing and things that are really kind of the next generation. It's a whole new way to approach some of these historical problems we've had. Well, sure, they should be doing that because that's what they've been doing for years, for decades. Most of the vendors that are in the market today, the prevalent ones, they all have, at least 10 years behind them. And there's a lot of young bucks kind of, nipping at their heels with some new interesting things that are going on as well. So I think you can rely on these vendors, probably even more so. And you need to talk to them about it too. Go to their conferences, hear what they're saying. There's a lot of beta programs. Actually, we have a great vendor that we do business with, an implementation partner who's building out some things. And he's really interested in looking at some customers to pick that up as kind of beta customers. So you can rely on these people that I think have done so well in the past. And I really would say too, look, if you haven't migrated to cloud-based applications, you need to do that. Not only is SAP, Oracle, Microsoft, Sage, Epicor, Deltek, the list just kind of goes on and on and on. ECI, there's so many vendors out there that have sold so many solutions over the years. And now they're just discontinuing them. I'm sorry, sunsetting. Doesn't that sound so wonderful? My application's being sunsetted. Yes. Oh, that's just going to go off into the sunset. But wait a minute. What happens when there's no security patches or regulatory patches coming? You're not in the sunset. You're like in the, the ring of fire. So, you have to really take responsibility for the apps, the enterprise applications that your companies, your entities, your businesses, your nonprofits are running. Somebody's got to do it. And frankly, the sooner you do it, the better, because there is so much revolutionary change that's coming with these new systems that you're going to want to take advantage of that. Now, I don't make a dime off of sales software commission. If I did, I probably would have made a lot more money. But I love helping companies through these situations. And I'm telling you that if you're on an old version of GP, or you're sitting on an old, daily commerce solution, or you're in something that was written 30, 40 years ago by somebody who really, really, really wants to retire if you would let them, but they're being nice by staying around, even though they're contracting and, they're looking at hospital fees. I don't know. I'm seriously, we've had clients that we've been through everything. You really do need to look at doing that migration, and you can trust me. I'm weary of people who say that, but it's kind of true. The benefits will be exponential and they'll be easy to quantify to get you over the pain of switching. You're going to have pain in changing your ERP. There's no question about that. Use our website to help you with that, please. But it's going to be worth it. So please know also that we're here to help. We have helped many, many, many people through these kinds of conversations. If you want to dive in more on AI, and if you have thoughts or considerations or anything, send those to me too, for sure. So this is our last question. Congratulations, you've made it to the end. Generative AI is currently in which stage of Gartner's hype cycle? Ooh, this one's very tricky. So slope of enlightenment, peak of inflated expectations, plateau of productivity, or innovation trigger. My marketing team is getting very tricky on you guys. So if you think about it, it kind of went like this, right? It goes up, slope of enlightenment, peak of inflated expectations, right? Plateau of productivity, right? And then innovation trigger. So very tricky question, guys. I'm not sure I'd even get this one right. And I can also say, if you answer the question and then would like to submit any questions, please do. And maybe Erica, in a minute here, I'll pass it over to you to see if we have questions. Give you another 20 seconds. The answer is peak of inflated expectations. And it kind of feels like that, right? Wow, it's going to be amazing. Oh, but wait a minute. What do I really do with this? Create pictures of cats flying to the moon on top of elephants? Well, no, maybe you can create a website, right? Or maybe you can create a sales order with your system based off this customer. And then boom, there shows up the sales order, right? We're getting through that peak of inflated expectations for sure. Good. That's it for me. I will mention we do have another event coming up here in January of 2025. We'll go through our ERP trends, kind of the 2024 trends, what we saw, and then get into 25 predictions. We're going to do that over a couple different sessions. Rebecca and I are going to dig in there and go for it. So you can scan that QR code to our events page, and you can register for that too. So we'd love to see you there. And Erica, that's all I got. So thanks everybody. That's my cell phone. Reach out if you have any questions or texts or anything. I always love the feedback, but I'm always interested in learning more about kind of what you guys have going on out in in the world with AI too. So with that, Erica, I'll pass it back to you.
Well, one quick question. One of the listeners asked, would you consider RPA to be AI?
Absolutely. I absolutely would. Now, we have had some clients that, so RPA is robotic process automation. And like, here's a very simple example of RPA that I love this example that a client had. So this was it's a financial services company. And because the technology was so old, I wanted to use something nicer, but from some of their partners that they had, I won't get into the specifics because I don't want to give anything away, but there was no technology solution available to integrate systems from different kinds of organizations into them. The only way that they could enter information into their customer systems was to manually go in to a website, log in, put in the user ID, put in the password, go to this page, go to this field, enter this information, click this click down, enter this information, click save. That's how they had to do some claims basically processing. That's all I'll say. And when you have many, many organizations that are requiring you to do those kinds of things, and those organizations haven't invested in sort of, more technology-based solutions, you got to suck it up and do it. So what they did is they used UiPath, I think it was, to build out a robotic process automation, basically like a fancy macro, Excel macro. That's exactly what it is. Go to this page, enter this user ID, enter this password, click on this link, go to this field, enter this information, click this click down, look for this data, click save. That was an example of RPA. Very, very, very simple. There's many more complex examples. But if you think about it, that was training the computer application to do what the human could do. Now, could it get it right all the time? No. And if there was a problem, we could notify somebody who could go in and fix it. But that was absolutely a great example of artificial intelligence. And it was almost a more physical example too that we see in software. So great question.
Okay, well, I think that handles the rest of our questions, Shawn. Thank you for all the great information. And thank you everybody for joining our webinar. If you have any questions about today's presentation, please let us know. And I did make note of everybody who sent a note in the Q&A that you either wanted the CPE or the deck. But if you change your mind later, you can always email us. We're very responsive. Elizabeth at erpadvisorsgroup.com, or frankly, any email you have for us, we'll get it to the right party and make sure you get your certificate. You should see those coming out later today, maybe tomorrow morning at the latest. Also, if you would like a copy of the deck from today's presentation, let us know. We can send that as well. And be sure to join us for our next webinar scheduled for Wednesday, January 15th. That will be in 2025 for the ERP Trends and Predictions Part 1, where ERP industry expert Shawn Windle and ERP news analyst Rebecca McCabe will discuss how last year's ERP vendor innovations bolstered business efficiency, aided digital transformation, and evolved with AI functionality. Please go to our website, erpadvisorsgroup.com, for more details and to register. ERP Advisors Group is one of the country's top independent enterprise software advisory firms. ERP Advisors Group advises mid to large-sized businesses on selecting and implementing business applications from enterprise resource planning, customer relationship management, human capital management, business intelligence, and other enterprise applications, which equates to millions of dollars in software deals each year across many industries. Thank you again for joining us today.